So we are monitoring this terrible situation in Minneapolis and trying to monitor the live breaking developments. Somebody emailed us, freedom@charliekirk.com. See, Charlie, this is why I can't believe in God. How could you believe in God after this? It's a very important question. I don't want to be immediately dismissive. So let's first go to what we as Christians or Jews, but what ethical monotheists, we have the problem of evil. Atheists have evil no problem. You see, on the atheist side, they can't say that evil actually exists because without God, if God does not exist, then we are nothing more than just a clump of cells, and there is no such thing as evil. You only know something is evil if you have good to compare it to. You only know something is right because you have a standard of right. For example, if I have a piece of paper and I draw a crooked line. So let's just see here. I wish I had a Sharpie here. Maybe I do. Yeah, I do. And I have a crooked line. Okay, here's my crooked line. How great is that? Put it in the Louvre. How do you know this line is crooked? How do you know? It was just a line, right? But you immediately look at it, you say, that's a crooked, squiggly line. Only because in your mind, you know what a straight line is. So because there you see a crooked line, you're immediately comparing it to the contrast of a perfect straight line. The same happens in morality and ethics. We only know that something is evil and wrong because we have a transcendent standard to compare it to. If you do not believe in God, it is not right and wrong. It's nothing more than preferences. Now, in my theology, I believe that you're able to choose. Other Christians do not have the belief as much in free will. They sort of do. It's hotly debated. I do believe that we have agency. We have the ability to choose. We have free will. And that individual woke up with the free will and used that free will to murder 2 kids. That's evil. And we know it's evil because we are appealing towards a transcendent truth standard. And this is a principle also shared by Jews and Christians alike. But also understand this, and I got this from Dennis Prager. We as Christians or Jews, we have to explain the problem of evil. We also have to explain natural disasters. That's a toughie. Atheists, they have to explain everything else. If you are out there and you look at this and you are angry and you are mad and you are upset at this horrific act of evil, I would just say, how do you know it's evil? By what standard do you know is it evil? And you know it because you're appealing to Christian ethics or Jewish ethics or Judeo-Christian ethics in that regard. Secondly, the atheist has to explain everything else around us. They have to explain life. They have to explain the longest sentence ever recorded, which is DNA. They have to explain the fine-tuning of the universe. They have to explain why the earth exists. They have to explain physics. They have to explain the laws of reason. They have to explain the law of thermodynamics. They have to explain it all, and they have to say, oh, it's all just an act of randomness. But if it's all just an act of randomness, then morality is just random. And isn't it interesting that this shooter, we know nothing about the shooter except early 20s, and I'm sure this guy is or gal, but likely a gal, as sick, twisted, awful, demonic as possible. It's a guy, got it. This guy who is now dead, who could have killed a lot more, was only expressing an existential emptiness. Why was this guy drawn to a church to murder young people at mass? And so while that email is well received, Charlie, how could you believe in God after this? The question that I would respond is, well, how can you not believe in a God that created the heavens and the earth? The problem of evil has well outdated Every single it's predated almost every single commentator. But if you don't believe in God, then you say evil's no problem. But if you are upset with it, you actually are implying that you believe in God. You might be angry at God. You might be wrestling with God. You might be mad at God. You might think that God is unjust. That's a completely different thing than not believing in God. In fact, we're called to wrestle with God. It's very normal in the Old Testament for people to cry out to God in disgust or anger. It's not always justified, but it's very normal. The problem of evil is one that we can only wrestle with because of God and our belief in God. And remember, Christianity is the answer to the problem of evil. There would be no need for Jesus to sacrifice himself for us if we had never sinned, if we had not contaminated this earth. Christ's work will ultimately fix all of the wrongs. God created a good world. In the beginning, Bereshit, he says, God created the heavens and the earth. Evil was not part of God's original design, but entered through human rebellion, as it says in Genesis 3. The source of evil is human rebellion. In Romans 5:12, very clearly Paul writes this in what is known as the believer's constitution, quote, "Therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because all sinned." Now, God does have sovereignty over evil. Evil exists, but it's not outside of God's control. He can overrule and redeem it. At times, he allows it to happen. For example, in Genesis 50:20, one of my favorite verses, what the enemy went for evil, God will use it for good. The book of Job, which is actually the oldest book of the Bible, the first book ever written. It was a book written actually before Genesis. We know that Satan is active, yet God sets the boundaries. This shows that while evil is very real, God bends it towards his perfect purposes. The cross is God's answer to evil, and this is why Christianity matters. The cross is the answer to evil. Atheists have no answer to evil. We have an answer to evil. And I don't want to discount the pain, the mystery, and the confusion that you might have around evil. But understand, it's because you know what is good, you're only even able to articulate what is evil. The atheist dilemma is that if we're nothing more than just a bunch of particles and chemicals that have accidentally evolved over millions of years, what is your morality? It must come through revelation above reason. The problem should be reframed. The question is, what should not be, why does evil exist? Instead, it should be, what has God done about it? And the cross is the answer to that.